So that's why I make sure that I say allow students to record as well. Right, so at any time, if you start the class, you can start recording. So that way we don't miss anything out, eh? Okay. Just quickly wanna just go into the lecture. Right, engineering management 2A, same story as most of the other modules. For this semester, it seems like it's going to be running online because of the pandemic. We're not sure what's going to happen, but I'll let you know if any changes. Right, but currently it will be online. And the tests as well, we have no confirmation whether it's going to be a sit-in test or an online. But again, I will keep you posted. And in terms of your final assessment, which is because engineering management is a continuously assessed subject, your final assessment will let you know whether it's sit-in or it's going to be online as well. But with the engineering management, you don't really write an exam, you write tests and a control test because it's continuously assessed, right? And there is an assignment as well, which we'll discuss in due course. Right, starting with the lecture proper, the first section is project management. We're going to look at planning, your planning and so on, project management. Now, introduction, it says we're going to be looking at the theory behind project planning and scheduling. We'll learn how to use different methods to prepare project plans and schedules. The plans and schedules are used, then utilized to report on progress within the project environment. And then we'll look at Gantt charts, network diagrams, which we call your CPAs, which is a critical path analysis, or your CPM, which is critical path method, and your precedence diagrams. We'll be looking at all of those. Right, just some definitions there. First of all, what is a project? The definition of a project. A project is a temporary endeavor to create a unique product or service. Now, there are some key words in that statement. A temporary endeavor to create a unique product or service. Now, first of all, temporary. Let's see if anyone can tell me from you guys, who can tell me why we say it's a temporary endeavor? Anyone? Temporary endeavor, why? Anyone? Temporary. You can hear me though, eh? Class, you can hear me.
Because it's over a short period of time where the job will be closer. The project will be in it.
Very good, very good. That's basically why we call it temporary, because basically it has a definite start and a definite end. So projects generally is temporary in the sense that it starts at a certain time and it must finish by a given time. Because if it doesn't finish, then for one, projects cannot be indefinite. Then it becomes very difficult to plan. Secondly, how do you allocate resources? How do you allocate funding if you don't know when a project ends? So you need to know. So that's why we say it's a temporary endeavor, meaning that it must have a start date and an end date. And basically to create a unique product. Generally, products are, you could be, when you building cars, that's a project. You're building something, you're making, that's a unique product. Or service, for example, let's say running now, are we running the vaccines for COVID-19? That is a service. It is a project as well. That's why you'll hear that there is a project manager for the vaccine rollout as well. If not, no one would know what's happening. Things would go all AY. So you need some kind of sequence or some kind of program in place. If not, nothing happens. Right. So those are the basic definitions there. Right, now, as we said, project management is a structured approach. Now, you'll notice that I told you what a project was, temporary endeavor to undertake a service or product. Then project management now is all about the tools and techniques that you use in order to make sure that a project runs as planned. That's what project management is. It's a structured approach to managing a project. And you'll notice that this is normally done through applying your knowledge, applying your skills, all the tools that we're going to teach you and the techniques that we're going to teach you. That's what will help in order to make a project successful. And in order for a project to be successful, you'll notice we'll cover that later, there are certain key elements that need to be fulfilled. And one of them, the main thing, is time. You must finish a project within the time given, because when a project runs over the time, then it cannot be considered to be successful, because every time you run beyond the date, then you start paying penalties. Time, cost, very important, because if you had a budget of 100,000, you went over that, I can't say that the project is going to be successful. Quality is very important as well. The third key factor is quality. Even though you might finish a project within time, within cost, but if the quality is terrible, then you got a problem as well, eh? Right? Especially, let's say you were requested to build a road, you built it within the time, within the cost, but now the first car that rides on it sinks into the blacktop. That's not very good, eh? Right? Quality is very important as well, and you'll notice that those are the keys. So time, cost, quality, eh? Those are the key elements that must be fulfilled. Right, oh sorry, we said, right, so there we go. It says project management defines as the application of the knowledge, skills, tools, and techniques to a broad range of activities in order to meet the requirements of the particular project. Okay, that's basically what project management is in layman's terms. Right, now I defined a project, but what entails a project? It's normally a set of tasks. Most projects have tasks or activities that need to be done within certain time, right? You have activities that need to be done now, and as soon as that finishes, the next activity needs to start. But some activities can start later on, which we refer to as float activities, where there's some leeway in between, but we'll come to that when we're doing our actual network diagram and so on. Right. Your project has to be completed according to the specified time, the budget as well. It must meet the predetermined objectives. Now, if we said that we want to, let's say, do a project to build a high school, and all of a sudden somebody came and built a primary school for us. Although they built a school, but it didn't fulfill the objectives. Now, there's a huge difference between a primary school and a high school, eh? Right? In the way things are taught and so on. So the objectives were not met, and that project is a failure as well. And most projects are unique in nature in the sense that they all have the individual set of tasks and objectives. Okay, I'm not going to go too much into history, but very basic, just to give you an idea. Even when the days that the pyramids were built, there was project management in place. Although it wasn't called project management at that time, the term project management only developed in the late 1900s. But you'll notice there was somebody that said we need to bring enough materials to build this pyramid. There was somebody that directed the labor to go down to the riverbanks to chop up the rock and bring it to, in other words, to shape them for the structure itself. So those guys were the project managers, but they didn't have the title at that time. But however, the first person to really introduce project management to humanity was Henry Gantt. Henry Gantt was the first, he's the forefather of project management. He was the one that developed the Gantt chart. That's why it's called Gantt chart, G-A-N-T-T, developed after him, and we'll look at that later on, right? How it became so popular with time. Okay, still look at, I'm not going to go into the rest of them, but that's the main thing that we need to know. Henry Gantt was the one that developed. Right, okay, in terms of project management, you'll notice that the first one that I'm going to be looking at is the last one on that, which is a work breakdown structure. It's very, very important. The first tool that we use in project management is what we call a work breakdown structure. Right, now, what a work breakdown structure is basically taking the entire project and break it down into manageable components. For example, if you had to build an house, the components that would be involved in building a house is laying the foundation, for argument's sake, doing the flooring, doing the brickwork, doing the wall, the windows, roofs, and so on. Those are manageable components, and we'll look at them when we get to an exercise as well. Some of the characteristics of a project: it must have definable results, output, and the product, the end product, must also be in accordance with what was initially required, right? And very, very important, as I said, your time, cost, and quality again, right? Those are the objectives, right? The complexity of any project is that many different tasks are required to fulfill the project. That's what makes it complex. Now, imagine planning the stadium, Moses Mabhida Stadium. If you are the guy to plan the project there, you'll have hundreds of thousands of activities. You agree? So it's not easy trying to coordinate all of them, but we'll show you when we start going to the planning how we do something of that nature, as complex as that. Right. Also, you need to identify the relationship between the task and the people that are going to do the work. In other words, the team members. Right. Also, uncertainty. Most projects, you'll really notice that there is a risk involved in any project. That's what we refer to as an uncertainty. There is a risk. It could be anything. It could be a minor risk from labor dispute right up to major risk, whether what you've constructed may now, there's a risk of collapse. So we'll look at all of those, right? Then we'll look at the life cycle of a project. A project normally goes through 4 cycles, which is what we refer to as the implementation. That's the phase that we decide that we want to do that project. Then we go into the design, where we design. Then you have the construction, where it's actually built, and then you get the commission, where it's handed over and everything is tested out. So those are the 4 basic life cycles. As I said, your initiation or implementation, in other words, the project is decided on. The design, where it goes to the drawing board, the architects or whoever. Then the construction, where the contractor builds it, and then the handover or the commission, where it's all tested and given to the client. Okay, some of the features of a project: you must have a budget. Without a budget, a project cannot become a reality. You must have resources. All the resources are labor, plant, materials, everything else. Project management, normally you should have a single point of responsibility. In other words, at the end of the day, anything on that site or that job must be the project manager's responsibility, must be reported to him. So what I'm saying is that if, let's say, a laborer has a problem, he would normally report to his supervisor. That supervisor might give it to his line manager, and then from the line manager, it must go to the project manager. So there should be a single point of responsibility. Right, then you got, okay, I'm not worried so much about team building and so on. Okay, some of the challenges, the main challenges in any project is your scope, your time, and your budget. Because scope means that if I told you to build me a blacktop, in other words, a bituminous road, and you went and you built me a concrete road, now you're not in accordance with the scope or the specification. That's a big problem. Time, we gave you 3 months, you're taking more than that. And budget, we gave you 100,000 rand to build that, you're now taking 120,000. That could be a problem as well. So those are the constraints. Right, where can project planning be used? Basically anywhere. When you make a cup of tea, you're actually doing project planning there, because you need to do it in sequence. You boil the water. Quite often, if you're having tea, you put a tea bag in there, your sugar, and then you pour the water and milk or whatever. Normally, highly unlikely that you're going to pour the milk first and then go and pour the water and so on. There's always sequences in done. Although it may be done differently, but it may not be the most effective way of doing it. And exactly the same with project planning. Things may be done different ways, but we as a project manager or an engineering management student need to make sure that we do the most efficient or the most effective way. And that's what project management and planning is all about. Right. Okay. I just discussed the phases there. I told you about the concept, initiation, implementation phase. I'm not going to go in detail, but I told you that's where the project is born, or the thought. For example, if we want to, let's go for a school, which is a very basic thing. The concept of the initiation phase is when there must be a need or a use for the school. You aren't going to build a school where there's no students or no children that's going to be attending. You agree? So we looked at it. There's a community. The children are traveling very far. They have to walk 3-4 hours to go to school. We decided we want to put a school. That's the initiation or the concept phase. Then the second phase is what I told you, the design phase or the actual planning phase, where now it goes to the architects. They start designing the school and so on. Third is what we refer to as construction. Here they call it the launch or execution phase, where the actual school is being built now. And then The final one is what they call performance and control. We call commission and handover. It's the same thing. We now give it to the client, would normally be the Department of Education. They'll give them all the keys to each classroom, show them that the water is working, the electricity, and so on. That's handover and commission phase, eh? Right, and then, well, project closure is not really a phase, but it's more paperwork where you say that we've now handed over everything. The site is now given back to the client, and the contractor or the engineer is off that site now. Right, some of the roles of the project manager, very important. He needs to see what needs to be done. If you want him to build a school, he must make sure that everything is in line. Right, when it must be done. He got specific dates, certain things. For example, if you're building a school, certain date we need to clear the site. We have a specified time. By a certain date, we need to dig for the foundation. 2 or 3 days later, we need to pour concrete for the foundation and so on. And also, how will the resources be utilized, or what resources are being required? And finally, he needs to make sure that he can acquire those resources. That's the job of the project manager. Because if for some reason he realized that there's an important task to be done today, and that let's say the guy didn't rock up for work, he must phone guys on other jobs from within the company. Obviously, he'll phone and say, "Hey, can you spare me your carpenter? I got a major problem. I need to finish this task today. If not, it's going to delay the project." That's how he needs to work, eh? Right. He needs to deal with all obstacles. He must make the project goals, trade-offs. In other words, trade-offs means you must core out of it, eh? What you're given, you must get out. He must be able to solve problems. He must monitor the entire project. He must deal with all the risks and failures. He must also maintain a good communication and negotiation between all the workers. How do you select a project manager? You must make sure that a project manager is a very credible person. Credibility, he must be able to foresee, he must be able to look into what's going to happen tomorrow and the day after, not just look into what's happening now. He must be able to foresee, he must be able to predict what's happening. Generally, project managers are very sensitive people, because remember that project management, there's a very humane responsibility as well. You can't jump into your bike. For example, if you need a guy today because somebody didn't rock up, a carpenter, let's say, he didn't come, he's sick or something, don't jump into your buggy, run down the road, pick up somebody, bring them today, and then end of the day, give them 50 rand and tell them, no, listen, go home, we'll phone you when we need you again. That's not responsibility or sensitivity. Yeah? Needs to plan in advance. He must make sure that if this happens, if somebody don't rock up for work, he got a backup plan. Right? Those are the things. Don't run, because that's not a humane thing to do. Use people for the day and so on. He needs to have leadership and management skills. He must be able to handle stress. Very, very important. Okay, I'm not worried too much about the program spiral. Project life cycle, well, we won't really worry too much about that. We only worry about the 4 cycles, as I said, the initiation, design, execution, and commission. Don't worry about appraisal and so on, right? That's, you'll notice with appraisal and all that, it's not so much civil engineering. It is part of project, but for example, if you were going to roll out the vaccines now, then you'll need appraisal, you'll need preparation and all that, which we don't really need in terms of civil engineering. Class, that sums up the first part of our lecture. Any questions from anyone? Any questions, class? Okay, I presume no questions. As I said, the lectures are recorded. Monday is a holiday, so I'll see you again next Wednesday at the same time. Guys, no questions, class? Right, take care, have a nice break, have a nice Easter, and please don't overdo it. Just take care and remember that you're still a student, so books should still be at the back of your mind. Right, take care and enjoy the Easter. Bye.